Well, this meeting's a little different from any other big book meeting, and I shall explain. In other big book meetings, sometimes we go, everybody reads, and you pick a different chapter each week, or you do it. But this one, what we do is we go over the 164 in the beginning of the meeting, and then during the meeting, only one person reads. That would be me. And during the reading, there's crosstalk and you questions and anything else and little bits of information and explanation, okay? After that, after the reading, we do the 12 traditions, and then we can share for either a half an hour or till 7:30, whichever we prefer, okay? Sound good? So the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is split into two parts. There's the first 164 pages, and then the bigger section in the back, which is all the stories. Stories, very important. 4 different editions. If you want to hear the stories out of the first 3 editions, there's a book called Experience, Strength, and Hope that has all those stories. Okay? But our program is outlined in the first 164 pages, which is on the contents page in the beginning of the book, okay? It starts off with the preface. The preface says we don't change the first 164 pages. And we hope when you read this, you go, I felt like that. This might work for me. I think I might be one of those. In the forwards, the forward to the first edition says, the main purpose of this book is to show you precisely how we have recovered. In the second edition, the forward to the second edition, we throw in a little bit of history. In the third and fourth edition, the forwards, we have some statistics on how we've grown and how many more countries we're in, how many more groups, this is becoming a success. The big book starts at the doctor's opinion, the first 164 pages, okay? That's not Dr. Bob, that's Dr. Silkworth from Towns Hospital. He's the one that helped 40 to 50,000 drunks. He describes the allergy in the doctor's opinion. He's the one that says, you have an allergy, you're irritable, restless, discontent, frothy emotional pill won't suffice, right? And we don't have a pill that'll fix you. But whatever these men have to say seems to work, right? He talks about the fact that no matter how long we study as doctors, we can't figure anything synthetic that can fix you, but these people have the spiritual solution that will help you. And then chapter 1 is Bill's story, our first founder. Bill Wilson talks about, like in a speaker meeting, crossing that line, trying on his own, self-knowledge, that's going to do it, I'll stop now. Then stealing from his family, depression, and everything else setting in. He tells his story. He talks about the importance of carrying the message to one person and how important it is to carry it to another, okay? If that didn't get you to go, I can relate, then right after that, and there is a solution, we all kind of chime in and we go, a lot of us were just like Bill. That's kind of like us. There were 40 to 100, that's it, alcoholics at that time. And we were all helping write this book, or a majority of us were. And we chimed in this chapter and we said, a lot of us were just like Bill. You might be one of those, right? The real Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. If you are, come along, we have a solution. In More About Alcoholism, we read it in a meeting, right? It starts off with, none of us wanted to admit we were a real alcoholic. Come on. Nobody wants to admit that they're bodily, mentally different than their fellows. And then, just like in a participation meeting, there's Jim the car salesman, Fred the accountant, the jaywalker, and some other little stories that might make us go, that's me. I did that. I might be one of them. We Agnostics is a whole chapter, because we've mentioned spirituality a lot up until this point, is dedicated to don't overthink the God thing. If you cannot stop once you start drinking, you might be one of us. There's a spiritual solution, but you seem to lack that power. I lack that power to get sober on my own. B, no human power, right? That's the whole premise up until now of steps 1 and 2. Which we outlined when we read A, B, and C in chapter 5, right? If you've read up into this point and you go, A, oh my gosh, I'm an alcoholic. B, no human power. C, something bigger than me. God could and would if he were sought. That's steps 1 and 2. So in the original manuscript it said, if you read up until this point and you're convinced of those, you're now at step 3. So in chapter 5 we went over step 3, we did the 3rd step prayer, and we did an inventory where we did resentments, fear, and sex. We learned a few facts about ourselves, right? And we got some stuff down on paper. And in there, we started to find our own character defects. We started to make a list of people we've harmed, right? What we've done out of our own selfishness, dishonesty, and everything else while making this inventory in chapter 5. Tonight, we're going to start on chapter 6, which means what do we do with that inventory? All right? Chapter 6 has the majority of the steps 5 through 11, which is, tonight we're going to go 5 to 7, right? So 5, we read that inventory. 6 and 7, we talk about our character defects. 8 and 9, we're going to talk about how to clear up the wreckage of our past. 10 and 11, how do we keep that clean? And then working with others is all about step 12, how we carry that message to another now that we're free. To the wives, to the family afterwards, to the employers, if you got a drunk one of us, give them a book, send them to a meeting. But basically, other people were picking in this book up in 1939. Employers, family members, right? It also describes the alcoholic, and there's a lot of cool stuff in those chapters, and A Vision for You is where Bill sums it all up about everything that we've read so far. And think about it. At the very end, we sometimes read it in a meeting. Our book is meant to be suggestive. We realize we know only a little. We had him at most maybe 2-3 years sober at the time. Bill did, right? And we wrote this book that would change lives for 80 plus years. Pretty amazing, huh? The first story is always Dr. Bob's Nightmare. Yeah. So let's start on chapter 6, page 72, Into Action. So far, we've done all through how it works, which means we've done a step 3. What you got for me, God? Take away my fear, my insecurity, all that crazy stuff that keeps me from being useful to another, and how do I get through it and then help another? And we did an inventory, right? Chapter 6, Into Action. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We've ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We've put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory, that 4th step. Now these are about to be cast out. Thank God. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. That's when we read all the steps in the beginning of chapter 5. That's what I mean by it being mentioned in the previous chapter, okay? This is perhaps difficult. What? Admitting to another human being, I screwed up, I did all this stuff, this is how I felt, these are the things I tend to do. Oh my goodness, right? On page 25, in There Is a Solution, it says, none of us liked the idea of self-searching, right? Ew. This is perhaps especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. This is one of those lines that when you read it in a big book meeting, just kind of read through it, you miss. But think about it. What's solitary self-appraisal? And why would it be insufficient? Do you ever, take the extra $1 that somebody gives you in change when you're at the store? And you go home and you go, well, it's a company. Or they charge you the wrong amount in the store and you go, oh, well, it's not really out of her pocket. And you drive home. By the time you get home, you're like, forgot about it. You know? Or you did something wrong to somebody and they deserved it and you're in the shower and you're like, well, yeah. And you talk yourself into it a different way and it sounds all different in your head. But when you have to admit it to somebody, you're like, we either rephrase it or change it around a bit, right? Color it up just right, erase the parts we don't like too much. But solitary, by myself, appraisal of this inventory and this list that I just did is not going to be sufficient for me to be free. Because I get it different in my head. Any questions? So we find solitary self-appraisal insufficient. This is not a self-study at home course. Many of us thought it was necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Again, that same thing with the 1, 2, 3, whoops, 1, 2, 3, slip. The dance of I'm half measuring it. Well, I came in, I did a couple of the steps, but I kind of got lost in my inventory. I never got to a fifth step. Never really did that. 1, 2, 3, slip. 1, 2, 3, slip. Right? Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Well, can't I just share about some of it in this meeting? Can't I just share about that? I shared that one thing with somebody once. I kind of did an inventory in a couple different breaking it up ways. I didn't really do the whole thing with one person, right? Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but they hung on to some of the worst items in stock. Am I the only one that knows what they're talking about when we read that? How many other people feel like, oh yeah. Yeah, where there's like some things, I don't know if I want to write that. I'm not sure if I want to tell my sponsor that. She may not like me after I say that one, right? Solitary self-appraisal, you get to keep all your secrets. That's good. And hang on to the worst items in stock. Thank you. So they only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough. Now these are gifts of the fifth step. You hear different people say gifts of certain steps. They had not learned enough humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense that we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. Notice the little italicized. Remember when it's italicized, we had to spend more money in that time, so that was that one. They had to change the plates out just for those three, all of it. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. Any of those in here? Mm-hmm. Oh, heck yeah. We know when to put that face on with that person. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation. Or when you're out with the boys and want to be a tough guy, or you know what I mean? Tell a story here and there. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows his heart doesn't deserve it. Like the actor who wants to run the whole show. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. Blackouts, yeah? Mm-hmm. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. Anybody feel that way? Oh, yeah. That constant fear and tension. So I'm not getting that relief from the fear and the tension. I might get some relief from the chaos, from me producing chaos or confusion if I try to practice the third step. But until I get down to the nitty-gritty and learn a few facts about myself in the fourth step, I'm not going to get rid of that constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but a few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder why many of the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance of recovery. Can we relate? Do you understand what that paragraph means? So rather than going to AA, I might go to the doctor and just be like, well, I'm depressed. Or I keep getting pancreatitis. Or I don't know why my eyes are yellow. Or I don't know why my heart stopped. Do you drink? What's our first answer? Oh, not a little. Not much. Yeah! I don't think any of us go in and go, yes, I drink about a gallon of whiskey a day. Do you think that might be a problem? No, No! Seriously. So it's no wonder these doctors have a low opinion of us being able to recover, and we're never honest with them. That's what that paragraph's saying. We seldom tell them the truth, and then if we're not telling them, we're not telling anybody else. Right? Here's a direction of the fifth step. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happy in this world. We will get to this in chapter 7, working with others. But when you sit with the sponsor and you first say, I want to go through this program, and they say, I'm available if you wish to make a decision or tell your story, they're offering to say, I can be that person, right? It doesn't say it has to be, but it does say we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons to whom we take this intimate and confident step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with somebody ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. Can you tell a priest, a friend, a doctor, and your sponsor your fifth step? Yeah. Sure. Tell as many people as you want, you know. I think it's a good idea with as many people we have that have already walked through these steps to do it with the sponsor that's helping you connect all the dots so that you can then help another person connect all the dots when you sponsor somebody in the steps, right? But if you wish, and there's something that maybe you can't tell your sponsor or somebody else, you can take that to a priest or somebody. That's what they're saying. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintances in here, right, for a closed mouth and understanding friend that usually and hopefully will be your sponsor. Perhaps a doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of your own family. But we cannot, this is a direction, we cannot disclose anything to our wives or parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. Right? So probably not a good idea to read your fifth step to the wife you were cheating on or and then forget that part. Skip it. All right, so next, you don't want to hear that one either. And then we're going to do a sexual, no, we're not doing that either. All right, all done. So we don't do anything or read this to anybody that it's going to make them unhappy or hurt them. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we can tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. The rule is, of course then that means it's direction, we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Okay? Remember, when we wrote this book, it was in 1939. There were like 40 of us, maybe sober, all across the country. How many people, with the explosion of after writing the article in the Saturday Evening Post, we went from like 850 to 8,000, like huge. Would you want to be that one person everybody's going to call and go, can I read you my fifth step? Right? From here to California to New York and all over. No! There were not a lot of people that have walked through the steps themselves when we wrote this book. There are now. So keep that in mind, okay? Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with somebody, it may be one who is so situated that there's no suitable person available. If that is so, the step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through it at the first opportunity. Hence, if one of those 20 or 40 people across the country were not available that understood the steps, but today there are. So I would not read that sentence and go, wow, no, it's been 5 years, I'm ready when the right person comes, I just haven't found the right person. Don't do it to yourself. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. This is a direction. When we decide who is to hear our story, hopefully a sponsor, we waste no time. We have written an inventory, right? We did that in the last chapter. And we are prepared for a long talk. I remember my sponsor was just like, I'm prepared for a long talk. I am a closed mouth. She used words right out of the big book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. And then I realized, she got that out of here. We explain to our partner, this person that's about to hear it, what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. So this is a direction. We pocket our pride and we go to it. Illuminating every twist of character. We're shining the light on every little nook and cranny we found out when we did our inventory. Every dark cranny of the past. Once we've taken this step, withholding nothing. Does that sound like one of those promises and conditions? Remember we talked about those? So there's a lot of promises. There's promises in every step. Not just at the end of the ninth, but there's promises in every step. And some of them are promises with conditions. If we do this, this will happen. Right? So once we have taken this step, this fifth step with somebody, withholding nothing. So if I didn't go in there dishonestly, or not even dishonestly, but fearful or whatever, and I've got a few things I'm not going to mention. If I go in there, just kind of let it all illuminate everything, right? The next part, these are the promises of the fifth step. We are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had a certain spiritual beliefs, but now, the sixth one, we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. 8, we feel we are on the broad highway. 9, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. There's another one down below, but hold on. Here's a direction. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for 1 hour. Not watching TV for an hour, not driving home if it takes you an hour to drive home, but sit for 1 hour. Carefully reviewing what we've done. So I'm going to be going back over what I've done, what I just read to my sponsor, what we just went over, right? We thank God, here's the direction, we thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book, this big book down from the shelf, we turn to the page that contains the 12 steps. Where are they? That second page at the beginning of chapter 5, right? Where it goes, these are the steps we took. 1, 2, right? So we're going to look at those steps. Taking this book down from the shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything. So during that hour, I'm going to read step 1. We admitted we are powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. Maybe start thinking about some of the things we came up with while we did our step 1, while we read those first few chapters. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I'm not quite as insane. I've been doing this. 3, am I still in self-will behavior? Am I still trying to run the show, be the actor? Am I fearful? Am I trying to set the stage and get people to do what I want them to do? Or am I going, what you got for me? Remove me from self so that I can better walk through whatever you put in front of me so I can help another. All right, let me review that. I remember going over that. Okay. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Well, I just read that with my sponsor, so let's see. We went over the resentments. While I was going over the resentment, this is all during that hour. I'm kind of going, we did the resentments. And, oh, that was really good when she's just listening because she's closed mouth friend, but she might mention, did you put that on your list for your character defects? Okay. Did you ask yourself this question? Okay. Did you say the prayer with that? Okay, yeah. You had that, added that over to where you're going to be making amends later. Okay, let's keep reading. She's just listening, but kind of just throwing things out there. Not judging, because it's my inventory, mine alone, it's not hers. I'm not getting graded on it. She's just there as a closed mouth friend, maybe like to bounce things off as I'm reading it. Some things I may not have seen while I was writing. All right, well, she brought that up. That was great. You know what I mean? And I write that down. And in this hour, while I'm reading and going over all this stuff that I just did with my sponsor, quietly with myself now for an hour, I don't know about you, but there's always that one thing that I go, ooh, I didn't tell her that. Ooh, I didn't write that one down. Right? Good point. Yeah, so he's saying that when we read this, carefully review, we ask if we have admitted anything. There's something in our gut that goes, ooh, yeah, I already know if I admitted something. Or maybe something that came in while I was doing my fifth step, while I was reading it to her, made me think of something else that while sitting for an hour I went, oh, ooh, right? But if we want that personality change, we're going to go into it trying to admit nothing, right? We're just going to kind of let it all go. Let it all be free so I can better understand me and be free, right? For we are, why are we doing this? For we are building an arch through which we shall, this is the 10th promise of the fifth step, we shall walk a free man at last. I love how he references the arch. Where else did we talk about that archway? Third step, right? Because the third step's the keystone that holds that arch of all the other steps together. So we're building, while we're doing these steps, this archway that we're going to walk through to freedom. That third step's the keystone that holds and locks all those steps together. But we're in the process of doing this, and this is one of the biggies, is reading this fifth step. We're also going to ask ourselves in this hour, is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Did I erase a little bit of that story, color it up here? You know what I mean? You have to start all over again. No. So if there's something, okay, that I don't want to tell my sponsor, and I know, even when I sit for that hour, I know I've omitted it because I don't want to tell that particular sponsor. I don't want to tell her. I feel like she's going to judge me or that this or whatever, right? Do I look for another sponsor and start the steps all over again? Or do I go to search out a closed-mouth, understanding friend? Right? Is there maybe something I can read to someone else? Right? Maybe it's not just that I feel like I'm being judged, but I want to read that to somebody else, and they might be able to help me. And then maybe I can go to my sponsor and say, I didn't know how to bring this to you. I went and talked with this person. I went to talk to Susie, and she said, wow, this, and she explained it really great. And I feel more comfortable telling you this now, but I left this out of my inventory. There were things I left out of my inventory. I told my sponsor in the middle of a record store, out of the blue. Oh, by the way. We laughed. I still remember the moment. I'm like, oh, we just kept going. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you this one. But it's my inventory. It's my freedom. It's my time to tell when I'm ready to tell it. Yeah. Have I admitted anything? It's my inventory, no one else's. But some of this stuff in that hour aren't going to come to me. That one thing that I said, what didn't come to me for years later until somebody else read their inventory to me, and I went, oh my goodness, that's something I should have had on mine, right? So some of it won't come then. Does that mean my inventory is improper, incorrect, or incomplete? No. At this moment, to the best of my knowledge, have I admitted anything? Right? I'm reviewing what I've done. Is my work solid so far? Yeah. Right? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on anything? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Mortar's made with sand, so what they're trying to say is, did you kind of skip on like the big ingredient in there? Right? Another good point is that this is my inventory, and the direction of the book says nothing counts but thoroughness and honesty. It doesn't say that the person I'm picked has to be thoroughly and honest on them, but on me. And I have a wide selection of people, supposedly by now or whatever. If I don't get the right availability. I can go anywhere to get this work done on me, because it's my thoroughness and honesty when I'm doing this step. All right. Right, so if we must not shrink at anything, and if I'm willing to go to any lengths, and I'm not getting it from my sponsor, I'm not going to blame that sponsor because I didn't get a chance to finish my fifth step. I'm going to keep searching out. Well, I know that I had another person that I could talk to. I know that this person may have gone through that same thing. I can keep going until I want to get my fifth step done so that I can get through these steps, right? So now also, here's another good point. Is it your sponsor that's going to tell you, you didn't do it right. No, that's not complete. You've got to go back and work a little bit more on that fourth step because you didn't do it right. You're incomplete, or I did not give you a passing grade on this. No. Oh, no. Have we heard that in the room sometimes? Yeah. Now, if your sponsor has done this work themselves as well, they might ask you prompting questions, right? That'll help you find your own answers if they see something maybe that I haven't, and you can go, oh, okay, yeah, right? Which is really wonderful and enlightening, right? So let's see. All right, now I went home. I read this. Wow, it was a whole 5 minutes in the coffee bar. I read it off my little matchbook cover where I wrote my four-step inventory. Or I spent the weekend at her house and would not leave. And that was just on my fears. So I did it. I went home now, 1 hour. I sat, I took the book down. I went through all the things that we've already done up until this point. And I was like, okay, yep, didn't withhold anything, right? I got, that one. So maybe I might call her up and go, well, no. Okay, all right, just continue on with the hour. All right. I put the phone back down. I keep going, right? So now if I can answer to satisfaction, we're on the top of page 76 now. If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we then look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable, very important. We are now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable. But how do we find those things that are objectionable? By doing the inventory. Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing. Right? Well, I kind of think I'm a really good liar. Or my sarcasm to put other people down. Could that stand in my way of being useful to someone or helpful? Sometimes, maybe. But I like that. I'm not willing. Well, then what do? I'm going to ask God to keep, I've already agreed that on my inventory I said that's not a good character, that's not a good characteristic, that's a character defect. So everything on that defect list, I have to then be willing, because I've admitted it's a character defect, that I'd like God to remove that, especially if it's going to stand in my way of helping somebody, right? If I'm not willing, I'm going to continue to ask God to help me be willing, right? Everybody clear on step 6? That's a biggie. A whole paragraph. Some of the behaviors, like I might be in an affair or embezzling money or doing something illegal, and keep praying until you can be willing to let that go and be, get through it, get past it. But when we're ready, now we're at step 7, right? When we're ready, we said something like this. So now think about it. If you ever see the prayers on the table and you can't tell the difference between 3 and 7, right? 3 is what you got for me, take me out of self so that I can walk through what you got so I can help somebody else, right? What's 7 going to be looking at? What I found about me in the inventory, my character defects and assets, right? So now I'm going to look at it and go, my Creator, I am now willing, because I just did that in the previous paragraph, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. Right on. Pretty simple, huh? But it's pretty powerful, too, at the same time, right? We're going to stop right here because we're going to go into the other steps and finish this chapter up next week. Sound good? Right on.